You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning, it's March the 13th, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. Good morning, Rev Cindy. How you doing?
Good morning, Al. I'm pretty amazing this morning. How about yourself?
Not too bad. A little sleepy-eyed, I think, though. I slept in this morning, but I'm here.
You're here.
We're ready to go.
Yeah.
Yes. And let's get to the eyewitness weather report before we get into the news.
It is sunny here. Right now we're sitting at about +4. It's going to get to +8 by this afternoon. It's only going to go down to about a +3 tonight. I tell you, Nova Scotia's rocking. So I'm heading to a concert in beautiful weather. I'm so excited.
All right. Concert. Where you going?
OLP, Our Lady Peace, and Collective Soul are performing here in Halifax tonight.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Nice.
I see you've got sunshine.
Yeah, you got the sunshine, got the stripe behind me going on there. And I was out, I don't know, about half an hour ago, and it's nice out there as well. I believe we're going to end up around the same temperature range, about +7, +8 in the end.
Yeah. I head up to Ontario on Monday. And Monday looks like a nice day up there. I'm in medicine on Tuesday, and Wednesday is my day for running around doing some visiting. It's supposed to be 13 to 15 degrees and sunshiny on Wednesday in Toronto.
Yeah, you're going to enjoy that. That's for sure.
The universe is helping me out on vacation. I love it.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. All righty. Well, what do you say? We get into the news.
Let's do it.
All right, just so everybody knows, we're mainly going to take a trip around North America in this first half of the show. In the second half, we're heading over to Europe. We're going to cover some news there as well. So here we go. First one up.
Coming to us from StratCan, updates to cannabis rules and regulations are now made public.
Yeah, Health Canada has published their scheduled updates to the cannabis regulations, hemp regulations, and the Cannabis Act, streamlining some aspects of the regulations to benefit the legal cannabis market. The regulation changes focus on 5 key areas: licensing, production, packaging and labeling, security, and record keeping. It doesn't sound like it's going to help the customers going wanting better edibles or something. The government's goal with these changes is to address some of the challenges expressed by the industry while maintaining the key public health and safety concerns within the Federal Cannabis Act.
Yeah, although there have been other changes to the regulations since legalization came into force in October of 2018, this is the most extensive package of regulatory changes so far. While the regulatory changes are expected to increase regulatory costs, that word is in there so much for Health Canada, the agency says the regulatory burden and costs for small businesses will be reduced. An estimated total reduction to administrative burden on businesses is expected to be $7.8 million annually in 2012 dollars.
And they say that as far as according to these changes, research, it comes down to organizations and individual researchers now do not need a research license when conducting non-human or non-animal research while possessing no more than 30 grams of dried cannabis or its equivalent for research purposes at any given time. The individual or organization will be permitted to produce cannabis for research purposes, but not cultivate, propagate, or harvest it.
The cultivation and processing limits for micro-cultivators and microprocessors have increased by a factor of 4. Micro-cultivators were previously limited to growing cannabis within a 200 square meter canopy. This is now raised to 800 square meters. There is still no limit on how much volume of cannabis a micro-cultivator can grow within the canopy space. Microprocessors were previously limited to processing up to 600 kg of dried cannabis or its equivalent. This is now raised to 2,400 kg.
The cannabis nurseries were previously limited to growing cannabis flower in a 50 square meter space, harvesting up to 5 kilograms of cannabis flower for the purpose of seed production. That limit has now been increased to 200 square meters, and nurseries are still required to destroy the flower after the cannabis seeds have been harvested. Now, as far as quality assurance end of things, they say that the changes to the cannabis regulations also increase the number of alternate QAPs, which is the quality assurance person, on staff. Previously, this was limited to no more than 2. Now, no such limit applies.
I'm still stuck back on their order to destroy the flower after the seeds have been harvested. Do you know how many cancer patients they can help with that?
Yeah.
But cannabis pollen previously not mentioned in the cannabis regulations will now be allowed to be sold between license holders. And consumer info. Licensed producers will no longer be required to provide printed copies of the consumer information document with every package of cannabis products sent.
Yeah. Now, as far as some changes over the COVID end of things, it says several temporary changes made by Health Canada during the COVID-19 pandemic and subsequent shutdowns have now been made permanent. This includes removing the requirement to list the ports of entry and exit on import and export permits for cannabis and industrial hemp importers and exporters. As far as license suspensions, they said the new changes make it possible for Health Canada to suspend any licenses connected to a license holder with any unpaid fees or that have failed to submit a required statement of cannabis revenue for a license as required under the cannabis fees order. Now, as far as this licensing, that suspension, what are they with fees? What about taxes, excise taxes? Because a lot of them are behind in that.
Yep.
So I wonder if that's considered a fee.
I don't know.
Yeah. And
It's a good question, though.
Yeah. Could they be shut down due to back taxes?
Yeah. When it comes to cannabis plant derivatives made from non-viable cannabis seeds, mature stalk, and roots can be imported, exported, sold, and processed without a license, with some restrictions based on potential cannabis content. And when it comes to the industry of hemp, amendments to Canada's Industrial Hemp Regulations, IHR, remove the maximum THC concentration of 10 parts per million for industrial hemp grain derivatives. In addition, the testing requirements, labeling for wholesale sale, and import and export requirements have also been removed.
They say that these changes will allow derivatives of non-viable industrial hemp grains to be imported, exported, sold, and processed without a license. Now, as far as cannabis exemptions, when it comes to the Food and Drugs Act, they say the reference to a food or cosmetic containing cannabis that consists only of industrial hemp grain derivatives is now exempt under the IHR. So it'd be like hemp seed oil? I don't know.
The reference to food or cosmetic containing cannabis.
Yeah.
Exempt. Yeah, so we were talking about this.
Yeah.
That's really good. Ooh, that's good information.
Yeah.
I had to read that a second time to myself. My apologies. When it comes to personal and physical security, the amendments to the cannabis regulation remove the requirements for the on-site presence of a security-cleared individual. Cannabis cultivators and processors can now send cannabis for mediation, for like irradiation, etc., without a security-cleared person chaperoning the product. This also applies to the holder of a research license or a cannabis drug license.
In addition, the intrusion detection system requirement for a site perimeter has been removed. Oh, really? Any licensed operations areas where cannabis is not present and where no activities with cannabis are occurring will also not require any visual recording devices and intrusion detection systems to continually operate and be monitored.
Wow.
And yeah. The previous requirement for storage areas to have a room within a room, and the requirement to record and retain a list of individuals entering or exiting the storage area has also been removed. Geez, they had to keep track of that every time somebody went in and out of a room.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I've noticed that here in Nova Scotia, because our cannabis stores are literally in closets in the back of our liquor stores.
Yes,
But
yeah.
when you're reading that, like I'm thinking about it. They have a clipboard by the door that every time they come in, they have to initial.
Oh,
Isn't that interesting?
yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
No, they don't.
Federal license holders will be required to keep just the visual recordings showing movement on the site perimeter, operations areas, indoors and outdoors, and storage areas for at least 1 year after the day on which they are made. When it comes to pre-rolls and ethyl alcohol, the restriction on the weight limit of 1 gram for each discrete unit of dried cannabis that is intended to be consumed by inhalation, such as cannabis pre-rolls, is removed.
Now, the use of ethyl alcohol as an ingredient in certain cannabis products will now be permitted beyond just the previously allowed cannabis extract products intended for ingestion in edible cannabis products. This now includes the use of ethyl alcohol as an ingredient in inhaled cannabis extracts up to a maximum net weight of 7.5 grams. Now, as far as cannabis packaging, they say that Health Canada has made several changes to the cannabis packaging requirements, including now allowing cutout windows on dried cannabis and allowing different coloring used on cannabis containers. So they don't have to be black anymore. They can have a different color.
Yes, yeah, which is kind of neat. Some of the
probably because of the kids, right?
Cool.
They don't want the kids attracted to a yellow container.
Yeah.
But that's been changed. That's good.
That's good. Yes. The co-packaging of multiple immediate containers of edible cannabis products into an outermost container for dried or fresh cannabis topical, and cannabis extract products is now allowed. The 30-gram or equivalent limit still applies to the outermost container. The 10 milligram THC limit for an outermost container of edible cannabis products is also removed, allowing for multiple discrete 10 milligram THC cannabis edibles to be packaged together.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. I'm going, all right, sounds good. But what this line that says the 30-gram or equivalent limit still applies to the outermost container.
Yes. So you cannot, like, if you're buying a package of edibles, we used to only be able to buy 1 pack, each per week. So now we can buy 1 pack, which would be the equivalent to 30 grams of dried flower, but it can be broken up into, it has to be broken up into the equivalent of 10 milligram edibles is what it says. So now they can have a package of, like, say, 10 milligram edibles in there. It still sucks that they can't make the 10 milligram and 100 milligram, but at least now we can buy.
They can get more.
Yeah, we can actually buy 100 milligrams of edibles versus that's a good step forward.
They had announced that earlier that they were going to do that, so it's good to see that they actually put it in writing now. So now, as far as the use of QR codes and cannabis labeling, they say on the QR codes on the cannabis packaging containers will now be allowed, and the allowance for accordion or peel back labels has been extended to all sizes of packaging. This is previously only allowed on small cannabis containers, and cannabis license holders can now also use inserts and leaflets. Why would they only allow it on small containers? Why not allow it on the big containers? No wonder they got rid of that. That's a silly rule.
It is, yeah. The font size of cannabinoid and potency information can now be as large as the required health warning message. Good. Cannabis products will now only be required to show the total THC and total CBD on the label rather than the total and actual THC and CBD levels. A 12-month transition period will be in place, allowing producers to use existing in-stock labels.
The requirement for equivalency of dried cannabis statements on the cannabis products labels and the requirement to include a statement that no expiry date has been determined if stability studies have not been conducted on both are both removed. Packaging date information is also no longer required on the outermost packaging that contains multiple immediate containers, while the immediate containers will still be required to have that information. And that's important to keep that in there. For sure.
Yeah, it's nice. I would rather have it on the outside. Like if I'm literally going to go to the store, a legal store, and buy some, before I buy it, like I mean, it's now a habit of mine to look at. And when was that packed? Before.
Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from, but I can also see where they're coming from, where the stuff would have different dates.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I can see where there could be a problem now, but unless they had some type of window packaged between this date and this date type thing, I don't know. Yeah. So.
A window of plus or minus 7 days of the printed packaging date on the label will now be allowed. Something started as a COVID-19 era exception. Symbols on packaging like recycling logo will now be allowed, but there are some limitations.
Now, as far as keeping records and reporting, they say cannabis license holders will no longer be required to record the quantity of any substance that is applied to cannabis, the method of application, or the rationale for the application. And license holders will also no longer need to submit a notice of new cannabis products for dried cannabis products or fresh cannabis products prior to making them available for retail sale.
The requirement for license holders to retain a document that lists the ingredients for cannabis extracts, cannabis topicals, or edible cannabis when they have sold, distributed, or exported those cannabis products is also being removed. All record-keeping requirements for cannabis cultivation waste, such as leaves, shoots, branches collected during propagation, cultivation, or harvesting, and the requirement to have qualified individuals witness and attest to this material's on-site and off-site destruction are removed. The addresses of the location at which the cannabis is destroyed and the description of the destruction method is also no longer required.
An annual report to the minister outlining the amount of money they have spent on promotion is also removed, as is the need for license holders to keep information on promotion-related expenditures and a description of the types of promotion to which the expenditures relate. The need for cannabis license holders to submit to Health Canada information showing whether any ownership interest or right held by a key investor was assigned or otherwise provided to any other person or other related details is also removed.
License holders that are wholly owned by a publicly traded company are now exempt from key investor reporting, as this is still required by other aspects of financial reporting. Cannabis seeds sown by a license holder are now required to be measured and recorded by the number of seeds, not the net weight of those seeds. Oh my God.
They had to weigh the seeds.
They had to weigh them before. Now they've got to count them.
Now you got to count them. Now, as far as cannabis tracking system, they say the monthly reported unit of measurement of unpackaged cannabis plant seeds is changed from kilograms to the number of seeds to align the information with that reported to the CRA. Monthly reporting requirements related to the weight of cannabis cultivation waste will no longer need to be included in the quantity of unpackaged cannabis if it either ceased to form part of or was added to the inventory during the previous month.
The coming into force date of the Cannabis Tracking System order, cultivation waste, will occur on the first day of the month following the coming into force of the regulations amending certain regulations concerning cannabis. The delayed coming into force date for the order will eliminate the potential of having both the weight and number of unpackaged seeds being reported in a single reporting period, as well as the potential of having cultivation waste both captured and uncaptured in the same reporting period. Otherwise, these changes come into force on the day of March 12th, 2025. Yesterday.
That's yesterday. So now it's the total estimated compliance cost savings for license holders from these changes over long term is nearly $18 million. The total administration cost savings for license holders is estimated to be more than $24 million.
Well, that'll be amazing. I hope we see that come down the chute as they start saving money.
You
Maybe
beat
we
me
will
to it.
too.
You beat me to it exactly. Will that lead to reduced costs for the consumer?
I hope so.
Yeah. Geez, that was a long story.
That was, but it was a good story. I'm really glad we did that.
Yeah, exactly. I sort of like that, because you get up to date on what's going on when it comes to these regulations, and that's why I threw it right there at number one, so we could find out what's going on. So, alrighty, on to our next story.
Coming to us from Yahoo News, state-run psilocybin program could be on the horizon under bill approved by Senate.
Oh, New Mexico could become the second state to enact a state-run psilocybin program for medical purposes under a bill approved Wednesday by the state Senate. Now, the bipartisan legislation Senate Bill 219 passed on a 33-4 vote after a lengthy debate that featured emotional testimony about the benefits of psilocybin or magic mushrooms for military veterans.
33-4. Senator Craig Brandt, who from Rio Rancho, said some veterans have found psilocybin to be effective at treating post-traumatic stress injuries after getting little relief from traditional counseling and other treatments. This is kind of the next step in therapy, Brandt said.
For sure. I can agree with him. After Republican Senator Jack Block of Rio Rancho said he was previously staunchly opposed to a state-sanctioned psilocybin program, but he said he changed his mind after visiting with veterans who struggled with post-traumatic stress injury after military deployments abroad.
Yeah. I look at this as a right to try, said Block, who grew emotional while talking about his own struggles with mental health issues and alcohol abuse after a combat tour in Afghanistan. One U.S. Marine Corps veteran, Chris Pasuki of Albuquerque, sat with Block on the Senate floor during Wednesday's debate and said in a subsequent interview that psilocybin use overseas helped, turn his life around.
He says that it completely changed my life. I was able to let go of a lot of guilt and pain. The bill advancing at the Roundhouse would create an advisory board under the New Mexico Department of Health to oversee supervised use of psilocybin for patients whose physicians believe they could benefit from its rule. The program would have to be in place by the end of 2027.
Yeah. It would also decriminalize the production, prescription, and possession of medical psilocybin. Oregon became the first state to decriminalize possession and legalize use of psilocybin back in 2022. Though such use must be supervised.
Colorado voters passed a ballot measure that same year allowing adults 21 and older to possess psilocybin and give it to other adults, but it remains illegal to sell the substance or use it in public. Several other states have stopped short of decriminalizing psilocybin, but have enacted legislation allowing research to be conducted for clinical trials.
Psilocybin, which can be made synthetically, it's called 4-ACO-DMT, in addition to being found naturally in certain mushrooms, can cause hallucinations after being consumed. It works for medical purposes by enhancing neuroplasticity or the brain's ability to change its structure. It really is one of the true wonder medicines, just like penicillin, said Martin Hickey from Albuquerque, the only physician in the legislature and one of the bill's sponsors.
Among other studies, research done at the University of New Mexico has shown psilocybin combined with psychotherapy can sharply reduce alcohol use. But health officials have also said it should be used only infrequently and under supervision, unlike cannabis, which can be used daily for medical purposes by individuals in their own homes.
So can psilocybin, but that's a conversation for another time. This is not medical cannabis 2.0. Okay, Brandt said on Wednesday. This is done in a controlled setting in a clinic. After being approved in the Senate, the bill now advances to the House of Representatives with just over a week left in this year's 60-day legislative session.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Always good to see things improve for patients. And good day, Gordo. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Gordo.
All righty, that's done. From there, we are going to move over to our next story, and it is on its way. As I click, click, click madly. Here we go.
Coming to us from MJ Biz Daily, suspicions that DEA rigged rescheduling process fueled by court documents.
I don't have any suspicions. I just from the reports we've read over the last few months, I'd say it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Here we go. Long-standing suspicions that the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration is adamantly opposed to cannabis rescheduling and waited a public process to ensure it could reject moving the drug from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 under federal law are confirmed by agency decisions made public during an ongoing lawsuit. At least that's the allegation made in a February the 17th federal court filing by a group of doctors who are shut out of the rescheduling process. Here, I support what they're saying.
Yeah. According to DEA documents made public in as part of a lawsuit brought by Doctors for Drug Policy Reform, the DDPR, an organization of pro-cannabis research medical professionals, the Federal Drug Agency considered a total of 163 applications, selected only 25 based on still unknown criteria, rejected participation requests outright from New York and Colorado officials, which supported rescheduling, attempted to aid almost a dozen opponents of cannabis rescheduling.
You can just see it right there.
Yep.
In those 4 spots.
Yep.
It's the fullest disclosure of date of the DEA's actions during the cannabis rescheduling process. Now, according to Dr. Brian Adenoff, he's a Colorado-based addiction psychiatrist. He says it confirms what we thought. Exactly.
Yeah, the DDPR court action, first filed in November, seeks to compel the DEA to redo its witness selection process, or failing that, to at least make the agency explain its actions. That matter, filed by attorney Austin Brombra of the Houston-based Yetter Coleman firm, is still pending in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. This is like reminding me of when Allard and Smith took it all the way to the Supreme Court here in Canada.
Yeah. They wanted to fight against it as far as the government end of things. Yeah. Now, part of the DTPR's objective was to determine if the DEA's process was fixed, Adenoff says. And it appears to be. I agree.
Yeah. Andoff believes pausing the process or forcing a restart are both preferable to seeing it through to the foregone conclusion of a rescheduling rejection. We're better off arguing the case where we are now than going forward and having it not work out in our favor, he said.
Yeah, restart it. Now, Adenoff's allegations are the latest and loudest accusations of bias against the DEA. A separate appeal that also alleges DEA bias and seeks to remove the agency as rescheduling arbitrator is pending.
Changing cannabis's status under federal law will provide long-sought tax relief to legal plant-touching businesses in the $32 billion American cannabis industry. And it's believed encourage Congress to pursue other cannabis reforms stalled in Washington, D.C. At least some observers in Washington believe the DEA would approve the finding that cannabis has a currently accepted medical use, a conclusion first arrived at in August of 2023 by the Department of Health and Human Services. And I heard you trying to say something back there a second ago.
Yeah, don't worry about it now. It's all right. That belief was buoyed by a September 2023 analysis by the Congressional Research Service that found the DEA acknowledged in 2020 that it is bound by law to follow recommendations of matters of health and science from other federal agencies, but doubts about the DEA's even-handedness concerning the federal prohibition of cannabis appeared almost immediately after the Justice Department in May of 2024 published its proposal to move the cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 of the Controlled Substances Act.
Footnotes in an April 2024 memo from the DOJ's Office of Legal Counsel showed that the DEA argued internally against rescheduling cannabis and disputed the new standard the HHS used to determine currently accepted medical use. Exactly what the DEA told the Office of Legal Counsel is unknown.
Now, this began in October 2022 by former President Joe Biden. Cannabis rescheduling is likely the most consensual rule-making DEA has ever attempted. A group of former DEA administrators told the agency in a letter last summer. The letter also was released as part of the lawsuit. But the most significant relaxation of narcotics restrictions in the history of CSA is now on an indefinite hiatus pending the outcome of separate appeals, as well as whatever decisions President Trump and his DEA administrator pick, Terrence Cole, might make.
Hearings before the DEA top administrative law judge ordered in August by agency's former administrator Ann Milgram were supposed to conclude on March 6th. That potentially historic process was delayed indefinitely in January after the appeals.
Oh, and as far as that Terrence Cole, the DEA administrator pick, his past record doesn't look good. Just so you know.
Yeah.
Now, in October, Milgram released a list of 25 participants who were chosen to give evidence and testimony in hearings before John Mulrooney, the DEA's chief administration law judge, but she did not share her rationale or whether participants were for or against rescheduling.
The document cache released by the DEA, spanning nearly 1,700 pages, shows a secret selection process guided by the improper aim of creating an evidentiary record that will allow the agency to reject the proposed rule and off filing claims. While the DEA rejected bids by New York and Colorado officials to participate in the rescheduling process, the court documents show that the agency did select a representative of cannabis patients in Connecticut, a choice Adolph called nonsensical.
The Connecticut representative later dropped out, and the DEA also sent self-styled cure letters to 12 participants. Such letters are separate, individually tailored requests for additional information, establishing that you are a person adversely affected or aggrieved by the proposed rule, according to the copies of the letters attached to the court documents.
That's the standard under federal law that must be met in order to participate in the administrative rescheduling process. However, the lawsuit notes, of those 12 letters, 9 were sent to parties strongly against the proposed rule.
Only one cure letter was sent to a party that turned out to be a supporter. Another government entity, the University of California, San Diego's Center for Medicinal Cannabis Research, after receiving more information from the CMCR, including that it supported the rule, the DEA ultimately rejected the application without explanation.
The CMCR's director, Dr. Igor Grant, did not respond to requests for comment. The DEA actions add up to strong evidence that the agency acted with an impersonal purpose of creating an evidentiary record supporting its preferred outcome, rejection of the proposed rule, the lawsuit claims in part.
Other observers rebuffed participants contacted by MJ Biz Daily agreed. Kat Parker, the director of drug markets and legal regulations in New York, says that I don't know what I expected, a fair process or outcome.
Yeah.
Packer also attempted to participate in the hearings, but was rejected.
It was pretty clear when the proposed rule from the HHS came out in May of 2024 that the DEA didn't want to reschedule cannabis, she said. And there's little to suggest that the DEA's attitudes have changed under Trump. Probably gotten worse, Packer added. This is the DEA's game, she said, and they get to make the rules.
That's not right. That's all I can say. No, that's not right at all. Just so you know, Gordo says it's all good, sun shining in Scotland. Hey, just so you know, Gordo, we got a story, I believe. Yes, we do have a story that's coming from Scotland. So hang on, buddy.
We do. We're
Hang
thinking
on.
of you.
Yeah. It's just that first story is so long that we've gotten behind in here on the time. All right, last story before we go to break.
Okay.
And this one says, I'm bringing
It's
it up.
coming. Yeah, it's coming to us from the dailymail.com. Health guru Deanne Matthews fed a Melbourne mom psychedelic magic mushrooms at a Clunes retreat. Minutes later, Rachel Dixon died. Now the healer has been given a shock sentence.
Oh. Melbourne health guru has admitted trafficking magic mushrooms at a retreat where she supplied a psychedelic laced potion to a woman who later died. Ringwood Norm, mom Rachel Dixon, she was 53, had a reported heart attack after drinking a mushroom tonic at a healing ceremony at Clunes in Victoria's West last April.
My screen is doing funky things, sadly.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's all these pop-ups.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep. Okay, on Wednesday, can you read any of it?
No.
Okay, now on Wednesday, Deanna Matthews, 54, pled guilty to supplying the illegal hallucinogen mushrooms, but escaped without conviction and just a $3,000 fine. The court heard Matthews rented the regional Oasis venue, South Barn or Soul Barn, to host the weekend retreat where she gave several clients a dose of magic mushrooms, and after consuming them, Ms. Dixon suffered devastating health episode and later died. The exact cause of death was not revealed in court. That's what I was waiting for. What was the actual cause of death?
Yeah.
Victoria police probing Miss Dixon's death found evidence Matthews had trafficked psilocin, also called psilocybin, from the magic mushrooms. Now, the police seized evidence from the retreat, including bowls and spoons, which had traces of psilocin, according to what the fluorescent experts said. Police also discovered text messages between Matthews and Ms. Dixon proving she sold magic mushrooms and interviewed several people who were at the retreat.
Oh.
Yeah, they said they paid $500 for the retreat, which included the cost of the medicine for the tea. Now, the court also heard the magic mushrooms were ground in mixing bowls, weighed, and served as tea. Guests were served up to 6 grams of mushrooms, which were consumed over a 2-day period. Witnesses said consuming magic mushrooms during the retreat is at your own undertaking, and all this consumption of the tea is entirely up to the individuals, and you are never pushed to try this, according to witnesses. They said that Dee is probably the best person to have sat with throughout the ceremony. Everyone that attends is aware of what the tea contains. Matthews also gave a statement to police, which she said people who attended the healing ceremonies are fully aware and consensual to the use of magic mushrooms, and it is the reason they attend, is what she says. Let's see what else they got here. But they said the investigators couldn't find any link between the mushrooms and Miss Dixon's death. So there's no link, right? The mushrooms didn't did this lady just happen to have a heart attack?
Yeah.
Just a natural heart attack? Let's see what else it says here. They said they performed CPR. They called emergency services, and it was Miss Matthew who was with Miss Dixon in the final moments. Mr. Ross also highlighted the police could find no evidence the magic mushrooms caused Ms. Dixon's death. If there was, we would not be in the magistrate's court. Now, there is a Canadian connection here.
Oh.
Matthews, a Canadian mother of 2 who moved to Australia in her early 20s, received several references from friends, including medical professionals. So, yeah, there you go. She passed away, and they'll, who knows, maybe someday they'll figure out what happened to her.
Yeah, that would be really nice. I wish I could. I wish it wasn't jumping so much, and I could actually have read the story.
Yeah.
No, I agree, Gordo. It wasn't the shrooms, but
Correct.
what was it, right? Like, very bad, very sad that it happened, and the fact that it happened during a retreat, and yeah, it's
Yeah, exactly. All right, Gordo, just so you know, buddy, he says, I hope we're legalizing. You're just going to have to wait, guy. You're just going to have to wait. All righty. Off we go. It is break time. We're running a little bit late, running behind, so we're going to get moving. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. We're live here at paceradio.net, 420pace.ca.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Legacy 420 have an awesome array of cannabis-infused beverages, from pop to Nature's Nectar's teas, all in amazing flavors. What a selection! We even have a delicious mango-infused juice, and let me tell you, it's delicious.
Everything is infused in-house, so we buy our syrup from, the same place where everybody else buys their syrup for their pop, and in the infusion is done in the lab. It's all canned here, labeled here, produced 100% on Tyndonega.
We have two lines of drinks. One's called our Nature's Nectar. That was our original line that we came out with. And then we also have a line under the Red E brand. We have them in 10 milligrams, 30 milligram, and 60 milligram cans.
What a great selection for a get-together with friends or after a long day. Remember, if you want to wet your whistle with on-site lab-tested products, come see your trusted partner. Legacy 420 out on your road.
Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. Open Monday to Friday from 10 till 7 p.m. or by chance. Check out our flags, our t-shirts, plus our hats, and look of that supply of rolling papers, plus much more. We've got bongs and your favorite herbal vaporizers. Look at all the incense we have, as well as for those who collect knives, check out these knives in our collection. And while you're here, stop in to see Shay at the piercing room, where you can get poked by Shay. Daily deals, check them out. Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford, Ontario. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. Re-rolled Saturdays. Check it out. Nothing but non-stop cannabis and psychedelic programming. Find it at 420pace.ca.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Hey, we're back, and I'm not coughing like that person was in the promo, but that does happen sometimes, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. It does. So, all right, so this second half of the show, we're going to be traveling across Europe, and we've got a news story coming up here for our buddy Gordo in Scotland, but not just yet. Here we go. She's up.
Coming to us from International Cannabis Business Conference, the Czech cannabis legalization efforts continues to evolve.
All right, a push has been underway in the Czech Republic to legalize cannabis for adult use for several years now. with the cannabis policy modernization effort gaining steam in recent years after multiple European nations have adopted some form of recreational legalization. Cannabis is now legal for adults in Malta, Luxembourg, and Germany. Cannabis advocates inside and outside of Czechia had hoped that legalization in the country would include regulated sales. However, it appears that it will not occur in the near future except for low THC products, according to a recent interview by Campbellford, which with leading cannabis advocate Lucas Hurt. What is currently being considered in the Czech Republic is limited to home cultivation.
At the moment, home growing decriminalization is the only proposal on the table, about 8 months before the general election. And this is only thanks to the Minister of Justice, who included it as part of his broader criminal code reform. The original 3-pillar plan, home growing cannabis clubs and a regulated market, which we discussed late last year, and for which I lobbied, is essentially off the table, Hurt stated in his recent interview with Campbellford. Another topic discussed in the interview was Chesnia's announcement earlier this year that low THC products will be regulated later this year. Hurt pointed out that the 1% THC limit was adopted about 3 years ago, but that related products were not originally regulated for human consumption.
You know, it's usually the grow your own aspect of the laws are usually the last thing, not the only way of getting access to it. I'm just so used to it being the other way around. So another topic discussed at the interview. Oh, you mentioned that. Now, the Czech Republic's cabinet previously approved a plan late last year that would permit adults in the European nation to cultivate multiple plants in their residences and possess a personal amount of cannabis. That plan appears to be still on track, while the wider policy modernization reforms will have to wait. In the meantime, cannabis advocates will continue to push for sensible laws and regulations. Now, medical cannabis is legal in the Czech Republic. Doctors in the Czech Republic prescribed 318 kilograms of medicinal cannabis in 2024 to an average roughly 3,300 patients per month. Those figures are set to expand in April 2025 when the Czech's GPs will be permitted to prescribe cannabis for chronic pain.
Wow.
Yeah, getting better access is always a bonus.
Yeah, right? I mean, even if it's small steps forward is steps forward. You've still got some forward momentum, and I find that helps the activists and advocates that are out there fighting stay motivated to fight. Yeah,
exactly. All righty, next story is up.
Coming to us from Strachan, Dutch coffee shops say supply chain experiment not ready for April 7th deadline.
Oh, so we're going from Czechoslovakia to the Netherlands, where a group of cannabis shops say that the market needs more time to adjust before the next phase of the country's legal supply chain experiment. In a letter posted on March the 7th, 2025, the group, which represents dozens of coffee shops around the country, says the planned switch to only legal products by April the 7th is not practical, and that the risks of negative consequences is enormous, as the quality and quantity of legal products is not yet up to par.
Well, that's kind of smart. In a memo in December of 2024, the government said that as of April 7th, all coffee shops participating in the cannabis supply chain experiment will only be allowed to sell regulated cannabis. This date was said to be final, providing certainty for municipalities, coffee shop owners, and growers. We are on the right track, and with all parties involved, from growers, coffee shops, and transporters to civil servants and administrators of the track and trace system, but not quite ready yet, reads the letter in part.
Yeah, it says that the risk of chaos and a failed experiment is therefore enormous. That would be disastrous for the energy that all parties involved have put into this so far. As coffee shops that fully cooperated with the experiment, we know that the quantity and quality and diversity of the legal products is still inconsistent or insufficient. The Dutch government, Okay. The Dutch government first announced its plans for the project in 2022, which included exploring possibility of a closed cannabis chain for cannabis coffee shops in several cities across the country. The first sales began in the Dutch cities of Beta and Tilburg back in 2023.
Wow. Interesting. As of June 24, all coffee shops in all 10 participating Dutch municipalities have been allowed to sell regulated products alongside tolerated products, to consumers. By the end of 2024, 70 of the total 75 participating coffee shops have sold regulated cannabis flower and hash. The next experimental phase of the project, planned to begin on April 7th, is set to last around 4 years. The government also says more approved growers are also expected to be ready to supply in April.
Yeah, 6 growers are currently approved to supply the program, including one connected to a Canadian cannabis producer. The goal of the closed-loop experiment is to explore the feasibility of a quality-controlled cannabis production and distribution system in the country as an alternative to the current tolerance policy that has not legal but tolerated coffee shop style points of sale and unregulated illicit growers who supply them.
However, the group of retailers say the system needs at least another 6 months to be fully prepared for a full transition of selling products only from the legal supply chain. In our view, the letter continues, a complete switch to legal products can only take place if every individual coffee shop participating in the cannabis experiment has access to a sufficient number of different types of good quality. At the moment, this is not yet the case. We have tried to make this clear to the mayors involved and to the responsible ministries in all possible ways.
I'm really confused here. They're holding back the legal stuff, but they're still selling They're holding back the legal stuff because it's not up to par, but they're still selling the illegal stuff.
Yeah, like they're allowed to sell them alongside each other with the
exactly.
Because I guess the coffee shops are going to operate anyway, and they're trying, I guess, to move them to the legal side. But
yeah,
I remember October, November, December 2018, and the next year after that. Our cannabis was terrible. And I know a couple of the growers that ended up growing, and but it was because of regulations and the stuff that was going out was just, it was dry. It was terrible.
Especially in the beginning.
Yeah. So I find it funny that happens with all of the professional growers around the world.
Yeah, when they start up, products not quite there.
Yeah.
Now, the group also says there are not enough legal growers and suppliers, and that some suppliers are charging different prices to different stores. There is also a shortage of affordable products, hash, joints, edibles, and bestsellers. It takes time to get our customers to switch to legal products. We also need to be able to maintain a competitive position with the tolerated coffee shops in other cities and illegal market suppliers. We therefore ask you to initiate a so-called optimization phase in which we can make the necessary improvements together with all parties involved so that the weed experiment can really succeed. Now, representatives for the responsible ministers, Justice and Security, and Health, Welfare, and Sport were not immediately available for comment.
The mayor of Breda, one of the first municipalities to adopt the supply chain experiment, characterized the issue as a serious problem. If supply cannot meet demand, driving consumers back to the illicit market.
There you go. The end of that one.
End of that one.
Yeah, they're just going at it back and forth. Yeah. It's because so many people think Netherlands is legal, but they're still struggling with things, and it's still sort of in the middle. Okay, yeah. Gordo, this one's for you, buddy. There you go.
Coming to us from the International Cannabis Business Conference, record number in Scotland buy legal medical cannabis privately.
Let's find out what this is for. There we go. Scotland's legal cannabis industry has struggled to reach its full potential in recent years. However, the industry has passed a meaningful milestone, with a record number of Scots making legal purchases of medical cannabis products from private industry sources. Now, according to the Daily Mail, they say that record numbers of Scots are paying for medical cannabis as NHS waiting lists leave them struggling to get conventional treatment. An unprecedented 3,440 Scots now have private prescriptions for the medicine. Most patients suffering from common conditions such as depression, anxiety, or chronic pain.
Scotland's first medical cannabis clinic was set up in 2019, and its roster of clients has grown monthly. The outlet also reported nearly 6 nations around the world have legalized cannabis for medical use to some degree. Israel was the first country to legalize cannabis for medical use back in 1999.
Just think, 60 countries around the world. Now, currently, cannabis is legal for adult use in Uruguay, Canada, Malta, Luxembourg, Germany, and South Africa. Recreational cannabis legalization has also been adopted by 24 states in the U.S., and regional adult use cannabis commerce pilot trials are operating in Netherlands and Switzerland. And just talking about Switzerland, just so you know, we got that covered next. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Here we go. It's coming up.
Coming to us from Marijuana Moment. Switzerland's cannabis legalization pilot program is running smoothly with no indication of public disturbances, government report finds.
Good news. Switzerland's adult use cannabis legalization pilot program is running smoothly with no indication of any disturbances to public order. A government commission report finds as lawmakers are considering legislation to broadly end cannabis prohibition across the country. After 2 years, or about 2 years after the pilot program launched in 7 municipalities across the country, the Federal Office of Public Health study carried out by the Western of Louisiana and the University of Applied Sciences Northwestern Switzerland generally determined that the initiative has been a success.
The study involved an analysis of different regulatory models that include for-profit businesses and nonprofit organizations distributing cannabis for adult use. Researchers said that for-profit companies promoted their products more heavily, whereas nonprofit groups focus more on health and youth protection with strict advertising restrictions, according to a translation.
It is found that a for-profit approach tends to encourage consumption, which even a strict ban on advertising does little to prevent. The analysis also concludes that the cities involved in the pilot projects have acquired a great deal of implementation knowledge, which should be taken into account in the context of the cannabis regulations, according to the FOPH.
Yeah, the results presented are still limited as the trials are only just beginning. Due to the short duration of the observation period, it is not yet possible in particular to draw conclusions regarding the effects on consumption. It said, adding that the second report is expected to be released by the end of the year. Overall, the initial report found no disturbances around sales points and noted that police have collaborated well and supported the trials, focusing on more pressing drug-related issues.
Cannabis consumers who were involved in the pilot program generally had previously established histories of using cannabis, it determined, and some destigmatization was observed, especially in pharmacies and social clubs. The trials provide valuable evidence for Swiss cannabis policy decisions, the report says, which noted earlier by Business of Cannabis said, while adding that political timelines may not align with the slow process of gathering scientific data.
As far as policy discussions are concerned, a legislative committee in Switzerland recently gave preliminary approval to a plan that would broadly legalize and regulate adult access to cannabis in the country. The proposal would bar for-profit sales, however, an imposed tax on cannabis products. Approval by the committee is an early stage in the legislative process.
They say the next step is an explanatory report on the preliminary draft so that the commission can examine these documents in the summer. Now, like the commission noted, interested parties will also be given an opportunity to provide comment at that point. There you go. That's it. Look at that. No, I didn't think we would get through everything within the hour because the first half took so long. And look at that. We got a minute, less than a minute.
we just made it. And that's only thanks to the fact that I think that was the shortest marijuana moment story we have ever read.
I agree. I went, wow, that was short. I'm looking at the bars. It's going down. And that didn't take long.
Woo,
exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, there we go. We covered a lot of North America, and we covered 4 places across Europe. And all good news. So it's always good. All right. Anything you need to say? Anything? Got anything? Updates? Whatever before we say goodbye.
I will see you April 7th, everybody. I am leaving to go do some medicine.
That's right. Yes, exactly. You're coming to my neck of the woods.
I am.
Yeah. All right. Just so you know, Gordo says, take care, guys. Have a good weekend. We will, Gordo. You have one as well. And to everybody else and to Gordo, that's the news report for today from the Legacy420.com news desk. Thanks to our buds at the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, Legacy420.com, At-Eze.ca, and Limestone City Hydroponics.ca. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. And you know what I always say? Don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20 is so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partners 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420 enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more. We've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.